Good morning, everyone. My name is Kelly Fuller. I am the Vice President of Workforce and Workplace Innovation at the Columbus Chamber of Commerce. And I want to welcome you to our monthly webinar series produced by A Better Us initiative here at the Columbus Chamber. And today, our guest is Tariq Mohamed, our guest and our friend from Jewish Family Services here in Columbus. And the topic today is about building bridges with our refugee and immigrant communities here in Columbus and the greater region. And we're going to have a conversation, Tariq and I, for about 45, 50 minutes or so. At the end, we'll save some time for questions and comments from all of you. So during the conversation, if you have anything that you'd like to share, I want to make sure that we address, please pop that into the chat, and we'll do our best to get to that at the end of the conversation. Tariq, before you get started, I just want to say thank you again. I know you and I have had these conversations around the region in multiple iterations, and it's never too much, right, to have a conversation about our friends, neighbors, coworkers, family that are part of our refugee and immigrant communities. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Jewish Family Services and the work that you're doing and what you're seeing?
Kelly, thank you so much. And good morning, everyone. And thank you for joining us in this meaningful conversation. I am going to share my screen super quick. And Kelly, can you see this?
You're good?
So Jewish Family Services was founded early 20th century, and the idea was to welcome those who are fleeing Europe's atrocities, particularly the Jewish community, and arriving here in Central Ohio safely and helping them integrate and support them throughout their journey of becoming a U.S. citizen. And that tradition continued to this day. We're welcoming people from again, sadly, Europe, Ukraine, and all the way to Central Africa, East Africa, Southeast Asia, and Central Asia as well. So we're still doing the same work we started years ago. But JFS, despite the name, what you hear, it's a non-secular organization that helps every individual, every walk of life to support them through their journey. And part of our core work is workforce development. This is one thing we're very known for in our community, to support individuals from someone with a GED or non-GED all the way to PhD and C-suite level. So the career expands from all of that. I know today the focus is refugee work, but just to give you, sort of that knowledge of knowing that JFS helps everyone, professionals like yourselves and folks that are looking for a job in a entry-level jobs as well. Um, Part of also the strongest thing that we do for our community is the senior care and older care, especially the Holocaust Survivor Program. It's one thing that is very meaningful to Jewish Family Services, and we continue to do it. We also empower families for self-sufficiency, and we do have a financial empowerment program that helps folks understand their financial path. So that's a nutshell of Jewish Family Services. I hope you can visit for more information. Kelly, should I move on to the next subject of
Yeah.
setting the level of? I just want, most of you are familiar with the refugee um, world, but I just want to show you this. So this is the international definition of what actually refugee means. A lot of people are confused about immigrant, asylum seeker, someone who came on an HB1 visa, a student visa. Everyone is an immigrant, we all agree, but the definition of who refugee is, it's defined by 6 years after World War II ended. For millions of human beings traveling around the world and seeking home, the world got together in Geneva in 1951 and created this charter of helping individuals who are fleeing oppression, who are being persecuted because of their nationality and because of who they are, religion, and who they belong to, and all of that. So that is what the world decided to protect, and that's what the law says. But what is amazing is that the United States even went further to that convention and wants to help any human being also being either help them escape aborting their pregnancy or sterilization. That's one thing the world hasn't defined in 1951, but the United States in the Immigration Nationality Act has also decided to protect. Um, so most of us are confused about what is the legal right when they arrive in the United States. Uh, do I need to sponsor them if I'm going to hire them? Do they have the paperwork? Do they have all of this? What do I need to do in order for me to hire them if you're a company, hire them? Well, the good news is that most all refugees has a right to work as a U.S. citizen. They can work immediately after arrival. They do have their work permit, but also without the work permit, they also are legal to work in the United States. They can move freely, just like any other American. They obtain Social Security. Sometimes there's a delay of bureaucracies, but at the end of the day, they will receive a Social Security and a state ID and driver's license. And they also, just like as a U.S. citizen, most immigrants cannot do this. They can access federal and state benefits. So if there is a need for SNAP, health, all of that, they can access that as well. And also they can exercise their freedom just like you and I. They have the right to speech, simply, and everything that you and I enjoy in the United States. Kelly, I was going to wait to share the next slide about when we get into the meat of this. Should I share this or should you want to?
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it because I think this is a nice segue into the conversation.
Absolutely. So part of the reason why Kelly and I always talk is how to help you with your turnover. This is the number one issue. And if language, culture, not understanding the legal rights for refugees to work in the United States, this is how we can help you um, get this cost down because a week, this is, by the way, a KPR study in 2024. So a week after you hire somebody, if they leave, the cost is $5,300. And by the 30th day, it's $9,100. It's a staggering number if you're on the distribution fulfillment center. Imagine if you're hiring 30 people all at once and 50% of that people walk away because of something that could have been mitigated. And this is the part of the conversation we want to have today. So, Kelly, I'll stop right there to give people a breather and you can ask questions. I'll stop sharing at the moment.
Yeah. No, thank you for all of that, Tariq. I think thank you for the orientation to what Jewish Family Services does and the rich history of the organization and helping us understand more about the services that are available to all people. It can be accessed at Jewish Family Services. When we talk about employers, many on this call, and you just shared, the incredible cost of turnover. $9,100 after 30 days is pretty astonishing number. When we look at our refugee and immigrant communities here in the Columbus market, just a few statistics from 2024. The transportation and warehousing industry here in Columbus, in our region, is comprised of 21% foreign-born workers, manufacturing 15%. Hospitality and construction, both 11%. That's a significant number of people in the workforce. We also know in the Columbus City schools, over 100 different languages are spoken in the homes of the students and the families and the staff that are part of Columbus City schools. So this region has really grown and changed a lot
Mhm.
in the last, 5 to 10 years. What are you seeing from your seat, Tariq, and your role at Jewish Family Services, with people that are coming here now, specifically our refugee community? Where are they coming from? And what caused them to leave their homes?
Yeah, so very good question, Kelly. I think the move is definitely from a protracted wars that has been decimated in Central Africa and East Africa as well. For example, the country that I was born in Somalia, the war started technically in 1988, and there's not a one centralized government to this day. So in World War I and World War II, the world actually was in war 6 years tops, 5 years. Those are the wars that used to last that long. Today's wars, in particular in Africa and the Middle East and Syria and Afghanistan, these wars are extremely long and the lines are moving back and forth. One day you're free, next day there's war. So people are leaving and moving abroad or leaving to safety. So it's not a choice. So these are not a European, German gentleman who wants to come to the United States for a tech job or a somebody from that. This is somebody who's fleeing for their lives, for their families, and want to come to safety. And luckily, we have mechanisms and laws that protect those individuals, as I stated in the beginning of our conversation. And the United States has been, for the longest time, the most generous country to protect refugees by far. Not even no other country comes close to it, the United States, the way in which that they protect the refugees and bring them in safe and humane way. And also there are programs that, such as the program of Jewish Family Services, the resettlement program, that protects those and gets them to self-sufficiency as quickly as possible. So because of those things, Kelly, this is the reason why Columbus became a hub for all of this. Folks in this call, for example, that help refugees get jobs and relatively affordability compared to Atlanta or Chicago or elsewhere. Folks are moving here and also relative safety as well. Some of those cities that I mentioned might not be safe for a lot of refugees who just fled wars and, atrocities, and they may want to come here. I'm not picking on Atlanta. If you're from Atlanta, I'm sorry. I just, that's a name that popped in my head. I apologize, but any other major city in the United States sometimes could be challenging for especially if living in an emerging community that is hard on its times. Refugees are very, very tough. So Columbus always has shown, and the infrastructure, the county itself, the city councilors and the mayors and everyone, and the city schools also, there was infrastructure that was built around to support refugees from the beginning in the mid 90s all the way to the mid 2000s and beyond. So that's why you're seeing an influx. But it's also good for us, Kelly, as if you're employing folks and if you have companies that you want to get people to work for you, it's a good place to be in Columbus, Ohio.
I agree. And I take us through the journey. So let's say that I'm fleeing, from some atrocity,
Mhm.
and I'm coming to Columbus, and I land at John Glenn Airport.
Right.
What happens when we touch down there and we get off the plane? Who's there to meet us? What's the next step when we talk about resettlement and helping people come in and join the Columbus community?
So can I take you a little further than John Glenn because there's a little bit of work that needs to be done before you
I'm
get to
sure.
John. So the once you flee a country, and I'll be very brief. I'm very nerd about this, so I can go on for hours. So once you flee, let's say you fled Somalia, you went to Kenya. The average refugee has 20 minutes to leave their home when war starts to gather whatever they have belong to them. So imagine whatever you can carry, you have 20 minutes. So imagine all the stuff behind me. How can I carry all of this if I wanted to flee? And look what's behind, like all of us, this is what refugees have gone through and continue to go through. So Kelly, when you leave, you have only 20 minutes, but you move to Kenya, a refugee camp called Dadaab or Kakuma, and unfortunately, you're there for 20 years. And then, and only then, if you're lucky, you get to come to the United States. And by that, you have to go through various of things that I won't go through here, and I'm happy to share with you if you want to invite me. But the idea is you have to go through biometrics. You have to go through a DNA test with you and your children to make sure that the families are. So all these vettings has to go through, and not only through United Nations, but our own officials that has to do that. So we have to fly folks from here to Kenya to vet the refugees. That's how much refugees are vetted. They're the most vetted immigrant that you can ever imagine. So, and then there's something called the resettlement process. So the United States will approve you to resettle. And there are 10 national resettlement agencies, and we belong to one of the resettlement agencies called Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, HIAS. And HIAS decides, or the State Department decides, how many people they would welcome. HIAS will call us at Jewish Family Services of Columbus based on your support, employers, based on school, based on housing availability. We will select a number that we feel comfortable welcoming. So you see, it's not just, hey, just bring them to Columbus and all hell breaks loose. No, there's a system in place that is the federal government has a system. So when they arrive, we've already figured out all of the logistics. They will meet a Jewish Family Services representative and housing will be available. Volunteers will be ready to support. Um, the kids' school will be ready to go. And immediately after that, there will be the ESOL and employment and speaking to you folks to hire them.
Right. While we're talking about that, are there specific events or opportunities that Jewish Family Services does to invite employers in to meet potential workers or to talk about accommodations or things that need to happen in order for those individuals to become associates of those companies?
Absolutely. You and I have worked with many companies together. You and I have gone to conversations to many companies. Part of that is there are companies who are veterans in this work in this field who have been hiring refugees for the past 20 years who know very well and know us at Jewish Family Services. Those who are intermediate or beginners in hiring foreign-born population. First, we set level of this kind of conversations we share with the staff and decision makers of the company, and and we talk about who are the refugees, what type of support do they need, and how to maximize their potential to grow, both linguistically, all the support they need while they're working. Again, I want to emphasize, I don't want to make exceptions for one employee versus the other. We're just talking about linguistics and culture in order for us to commingle and co-work together. So things like prayer time, things like holidays. Some of us celebrate Christmas, some of us don't. Some of us are different religions. So all we're asking is for companies to pay attention to those holidays, Hindu holidays, Muslim holidays, Jewish holidays. So it's just one of those things where employers will understand better their employees and support them so they can, again, maximize that retention and longevity of the workplace.
Yeah. You shared some statistics with me earlier today, and they're astonishing. We look at worldwide, we currently have 117.3 million people forcibly displaced. That has to be the largest number probably since World War II, I would imagine. That's 117 million people forced from their homes. So we also know that 1 in 5 of those displaced women and girls have experienced sexual violence. Um, and currently here in the United States, our FBI reports 11,679 hate crime incidents in 2024, which is the second highest on record. So there's a lot of movement. There are a lot of people coming here, escaping a place they can no longer live. I'm an
Mhm.
employer and I want to hire people and I want to make sure I'm hiring and reaching out to Jewish Family Services. When we know that people have experienced that kind of violence and disruption in their lives, that trauma, but I'm also an employer that I care and I also have deadlines and projects that need to get done. Um, what are some things that I can do or think about, or some resources locally that might help me help those individuals and still get the work done that needs to get done?
Yeah, it has been really one of the toughest things for us to even tackle because if you're in distribution or fulfillment or any of those type of jobs that there's sort of a seasonal, so between August and end of November, early December, if you are like 200, 300% output production and you want to get things done, it's a wrong time to have a conversation about, you know, what are your employees feeling? I get that, right? But the rest of the year is where we need to empower those supervisors, those team leads, And we need to sort of come together, such as this conversations of how to pay attention. And I'll give you an example. There were folks in January, end of January. I just want you to imagine yourself, you're working, and you hear that your family you've been waiting for the last 10 years, spouse, kids, are no longer going to join you in the last at least 4 years. I mean, the next 4 years. While you're working, how does that human being feel? This is a fact that happened on January 20th. There were families who were supposed to join on February 5th. The families arrived a long time ago. They have been waiting. Tickets were ready to go. Apartments were ready. Everything was set up for them. And while they were working, they hear the news that refugees are no longer arriving in the United States. So we're not talking about acute mental health. I'm talking about just things that happen in near them that the families are no longer arriving. So my goal then is for us to pay attention and I'm not asking for, again, special accommodations. American born have stress as well. It's just that this context, how can you pay attention to those things and what resources available to you as an HR supervisor, team lead, is having a conversation with subject experts who know this. And if you notice a pattern as well, if you notice there's a decline in productivity, there's a decline in absenteeism, for example, if you've seen an employer that was an employee that was amazing, that was showing up every day, and all of a sudden they're declining, and if there's a pattern, it's not more than one. If there's few immigrants and refugees are dealing with this issue, have us over and we'll definitely sit down and figure out, is there things outside the workplace that is affecting their productivity? And we can definitely address that. And we can also give you daily reports of what we hear from their family members. Sometimes we know things that we like to share with you as well.
Uh, you and the team at Jewish Family Services, I think, are incredible partners to employers in this space, and helping walk alongside the refugee worker as well as the employers themselves, and helping them figure out like how to stay productive, keep their business running, and also pay close attention to their associates. Um, how can employers familiarize themselves? So Jewish Family Services, we
Mhm.
know the work that you do. Um, what other organizations are here locally that can help assist employers, whether it's ESL or cultural competency or some type of accommodation? Who else besides Jewish Family Services could our business community turn to?
Yeah, there are three resettlement agencies, and those are Jewish Family Services, Community Refugee Immigration Services, and Ethiopian Tawahidu Social Services, as well as many other local non-resettlement, but also experts in that field. What makes the resettlement teams um, sort of subject experts is we welcome refugees from the airport. We know their path. We have taxpayer-funded programs that has that system in place. We have an ESOL programs that helps focus on your type of jobs. So if somebody is willing to work, I'll pick DHL, like fulfillment, anywhere that somebody needs to do repetition work and scanning and what have you. We focus that ESOL based on that type of training. Um, so yes, Chris, ETSS, and definitely Jewish Family Services, those three are major, larger organizations. But also, and I think Kelly, you'll get to this, but empowering folks that work for you already, that's one area that also that you could have a quicker turnaround, quicker solving the problems, elevating somebody from the refugee community to your HR or to your decision making, that would help the company tremendously as well.
Let's talk a little bit about that. I'm so glad you brought that up. Um, do we have local examples, or I mean, you can or you don't have to necessarily name the company unless you feel you want to. But who locally is getting that right? You know, the hiring piece, the upskilling, the retention, the promotion of our refugee workforce.
I There are many companies that I've worked with that are doing amazing work. So I don't want to single out, but the one that really sticks out right now in my head is the folks at Gap Inc. Um, and they really, really have utilized our services, integrated with our services on how to train somebody, how to do the application process, how to do the tour first before the people start, how to have linguistics available to them, part of the onboarding, the I-9 information, and also a week with the job shadowing. It's such a robust way of doing it. Um, Kelly, I know you and I have done this too. I remember AmerisourceBergen changed their name to I can't remember.
Sencora.
Cencora. I apologize. If somebody from Cencora here, I apologize. But that also is one area you and I have definitely partnered with and has been successful. So reach out. Not not everyone is the Gap Inc. or Cencora. You might have a different take on it. You might have different job. You might have different skill sets that you need. Reach out, and then we can help you tailor those individuals to your company.
Okay. So we hear a lot in the news and other sources that's just, I think, designed to, you know, create a certain narrative. What are some of those misconceptions about our refugee and immigrant communities? How, and if we can recognize what they are, how do we dispel those?
Yeah, I think it's we all humans at the end of the day, like that's the idea is we all came to work. We all want to make a living. We all want to support our families and be fulfilled in our jobs. Refugees are no different. And um, I think being intentional about the way in which you treat your employees. Um, Folks segregate themselves, right, at a lunch break and creating an atmosphere of, yes, you do have a different accent than I do, but I want to know more about you. I want to learn more about where you came from. And having that sort of conversation all the time, it really levels everybody to know, right? So, I remember starting when I first started, early when I came to the United States, nobody dares to even, they can see I have an accent, but nobody asked me where I was from or why do I talk different? Because people didn't want to offend me. And I found that very strange. Um, the intentions are more important too. It's why you're asking somebody where they're from. It is not so you can sound more American than they are. It's genuinely knowing where they're from and what the experiences look like. So creating that culture within your organization or company creates an atmosphere of love and respect and everyone equal and not, we don't want to talk about those things. And also segregating, trying to avoid that, this group sits here, this group sits here. If you have the power to change it, do your best to at least have people sit together in breaks and have a conversation.
No. Um, and that's just good business practice anyway, right? I mean, we want to be able to, regardless of someone's country of origin, you know, as our employee, as our coworker, associate, you know, treating people with dignity and respect and assuming the best intention always.
Mhm.
I also, you know, to kind of break down some of those barriers, you know, our friends at Cencora, I know that they did things like bringing in food from different cultures that represented, the individuals that were working there, and giving people an opportunity not just to enjoy something that they're familiar with, but to share more about their culture and their food and their home country with others. I think that was something that you and I both heard was such an impactful thing for that particular employer. And by the way, I'm thinking that their retention looked pretty good as a result of that and didn't fall into that danger zone that you talked about earlier with $9,000 invested, if someone leaves after 30 days.
Yeah, they definitely invested quite a bit. I'm glad you brought that up again. It reminded me of part of the one way they actually supported refugees was the transportation issue or transportation challenges that refugees had. And every American worker has this. It's not just refugees.
Right.
Transportation in a city hopefully will improve. But refugees are predominantly living in the north end of Columbus. So you got Cleveland Avenue area, Morris Road corridor, and then the job was at Groveport. Huge distances, and also the shift at that time at Sincera, it was when the job finishes. So there was not a set time to finish the job that you knew you can have somebody even pick you up. So what Sankara did was amazing is they looked at how much does it cost to retain individuals? How much does it cost to keep this talent that already learned how to work by providing transportation? So the cost analysis of providing two buses, different shifts, was outweighed. Exactly. So those are the kind of things that we need to think about in terms of, and by the way, and I think Canada are the only country that doesn't bus their employees. Every other country, every time I've been to Mexico, I've been to around the world, and every company has this bus and they transport people to do that. Columbus is, or United States at least, is one area that solution has not been implemented. And that could be incorporated into the cost, and they did. And it was very successful. And that's part of the retention, Kelly, that you and and we pitched that to them. And they've said, okay, let's look at it. So solution driven, that's one area that they actually has been successful.
Yeah. I can't help but look at the photos behind you on the wall. And I know that you're a professional photographer in addition to all the other great work that you do. The photos behind you, these are people here that have come to the United States, come to Columbus as
Mhm.
refugees. Am I correct?
Yeah, yeah. So Kelly, thank you. I wasn't I wasn't expected to talk about my photography, but as a documentarian and as a filmmaker, my focus is also to talk about refugees outside of the employment and just to humanize individuals. Once you learn somebody's story and once you learn somebody's background, you tend to root for them and help them out. And this is what I tend to do with my art and photography. So I appreciate, yes, those are the work that I've done, Kelly.
So those are the faces of people that are now our neighbors here in Columbus and are now working alongside of us here in our community. Thank you for capturing that. They're absolutely beautiful images. As we're kind of talking about the human side of all of this, um, when some of our more vulnerable communities and some of our more vulnerable workers um, are facing maybe some dark times, maybe some despair, as employers, as associates of these individuals, what can we do to support? Like, how can we lift up those who might be feeling despair?
Um, I think too many ways, but one area is just getting involved. So there is your capacity as decision maker within your organization or company, um, intentionality of making sure that people are, when they come for an interview, it's easy to dismiss somebody that doesn't put their sentences the correct way, use past tense, those kind of things is, oh, they don't speak English because you just want to move to the next one. If if intentions are getting somebody that will give you retention and stay with you in your organization and grow within the organization and company. I think paying attention to that human side and saying, okay, I know what this person means, but they're not saying it correctly.
Mhm.
Could we give them a chance? Could we find ways to do that? Um, the other thing is get to know the community that you will be hiring. Refugees and immigrants have businesses. There's a huge Hispanic community, in the West Side. There are in the North Side. There's Congolese businesses, Somali businesses, restaurants. Familiarize yourself with that side of the people that are working for you, so you can at least say, hey, I've tasted your sambusa, I've tasted this level, and there's a human connection to it. And one more thing, Kelly, if you're hiring immigrants and refugees, let's say you had more Hispanic, speaking individuals, learn 10 words, learn 20 words. That would help you a lot by breaking the ice in the interview. Or, if you have Nepalis working for you, a lot of Nepalis, trying to learn the language. I'm not asking you to be an expert, but at least 10 words, 20 words, that will really go a long way for you to break the ice when you start having a conversation. And believe me, you will be the center of attention. Like everybody will say, hey, so and so speaks, our HR manager speaks this language, and all of a sudden you'll get free food all the time on lunch break.
Um, I'm so glad that you talked about kind of going into different communities and neighborhoods and shopping and eating at businesses that are owned by foreign-born individuals. The chamber has a program. We have several programs here, but one is called Cultivate Us, which is generously funded by the city of Columbus and Franklin County, and its
Mhm.
focus is to help foreign-born business owners get all the resources and connections that the chamber can provide. So, we love to talk about those businesses and promote them. We have, retail, restaurants, everything in there. Happy to share those lists as well, if people are interested in finding out more. Um, I think we're just a better community when we have more variety and it's a richer tapestry, for all of us to enjoy. On that note, what personally, Tariq, gives you hope right now for the next couple of years? Like, where are you seeing like hope and positivity when it comes to our refugee and immigrant community?
If it really feels grim sometimes, to be very honest,
Sure.
because of our rhetoric that is coming from, the statistics that you mentioned with the FBI report, the hate crimes up. Um, but I'm hopeful because so many people joined today, for example, and so many people continue to support this community. And not only that, but also our policymakers, our partners, people that fund this Jewish Family Services, are people that really I have to appreciate because they've given us the power to help those individuals. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful when I see so many people that are joining this call, for example, and willing to give refugees and those foreign-born individuals. Um, but federally, I'm very nervous about the rhetoric that is coming towards those who can help our community, build our community. Imagine Columbus without refugees and immigrants. The numbers that you mentioned earlier, Kelly, I mean, that is astonishing. $1.5 billion that goes into our taxes and our region, both economically. And if you want to grow your business, imagine not having the talent to work in it. It's going to be very difficult. So we owe a lot to our refugees, but we also appreciate you for hiring them as well.
Um, yeah, when we look at, I think any given day, if you're looking at Ohio Means Jobs, the portal, for example, we have about 1.5 open positions just there for every one unemployed adult in Ohio. So, I mean, the numbers say we need to broaden the talent pools, right? Not
Mhm.
constrict them. We need to invite more people into the workforce because we have such a great need. and the productivity and the talent and skills that these individuals bring benefits our businesses and benefits our community as well. I always love our conversations, Tariq, and I always leave them hopeful as well because I know the collaboration between your organization and others in our community that are helping support our refugee and immigrant community. Incredibly appreciative for that. I did want to leave a little bit of time though at the end if you had any closing comments, and if any of our attendees today, wanted to chime in with a question or a comment, we've got a few minutes, we'd be happy to address those as well.
Yeah, love to. Are there any in the chat maybe?
Not seeing any yet, but do you have any closing thoughts as people are pulling their thoughts together?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you, Kelly, for the opportunity for me to be talking with you today and sharing. I honestly want to thank companies and organizations that I've worked with that hired refugees, but please reach out, no matter how small of an issue it is or how much are you dealing with. Refugees are complex, humans are complex. There's a lot of things that definitely sometimes bubble up, but before they even get to that, just come and talk to us. And I'll give a very quick example, Kelly. I know we're running out of time. Um, over a decade ago, one supervisor said no to one person about praying in the Islamic tradition. Over 50 people walked out of that job that same day. And there was a
Oh my
deadline
goodness.
that they needed to, ship so many items. So decisions like that could cause a lot of anguish and a lot of things. And also the folks that walked out of that job, even though they could have walked back to their job, they still refused based on that one decision making. So I'm not saying that is normal. That is never normal. And you're not going to have that headache by hiring Muslim community. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that simple decision making could cost a lot of headache for a lot of people. So reach out and we'll definitely help you negotiate those cultural gaps that, as all humans we do. So we can definitely support you with that.
That's great advice. So before you're making a decision like that, like terminating someone, if it is a cultural issue or something that the company could utilize the services that Jewish Family and others provide, reach out before you lose an extreme case like that, 51 associates, basically. We do have a question from Brad Griffith. Brad says that there are some great internship and apprenticeship programs that are accessible to small businesses looking to hire more diverse teams. Tariq, are there any that you're aware of that are either subsidized or not, that would help small businesses get started hiring the refugee community?
Yeah, there are some that are grant funded, but do you mind if I send that to you, Kelly, and you can send it to the group? Is there a way that I can do the research? I remember there used to be, and some of you might be familiar with this, but I feel like there used to be an on-the-job training. There are high school programs as well, right after high school. So I can definitely send you, Kelly, and you can send it to folks that attended today.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you don't mind doing that. And thank you for that question, Brad. We'll do the follow-up as Tariq does some research and gets that to us. Yeah, that would be fantastic
Very
information.
good question. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if we don't have any more questions or comments, again, many thanks to you, Tariq, and to all of you on the call today. And just a reminder that a Better Us webinar series is a monthly offering from the Columbus Chamber, where we'll be talking about just becoming better employers and to become workplaces of choice for the community. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Stay safe and be well. We'll see you all soon.